Okay, I've started recording. Thank you.
So yes, my question again was, with that data, was there any pattern that you noticed, or how did those three districts compare? Milpitas, San Jose, and you said Palo Alto.
Well, I've worked in both as a principal in Palo Alto, and I've worked in Milpitas as a principal. So I have some firsthand knowledge of those two districts. I've never worked in San Jose Unified, but as you know, my son went to school in San Jose Unified through 8th grade, Schallenberg and Hoover Middle School, and then to Bellarmine for high school, because that was a family tradition. Even my father graduated Bellarmine. But when I did the data related to 2018-19 scores, so if you look at reading, just reading in 3rd grade in Palo Alto, they have 55% of their students with disabilities not meeting standard or nearly meeting standard. So 55% that did not meet standard in reading, language arts, English language arts, for that year. In San Jose Unified, it was 76% of 3rd graders. And in Milpitas, it was 80% of 3rd graders. That surprised me. I thought Milpitas would be closer to Palo Alto than San Jose Unified, but actually Milpitas scored at least in that category, and it's a pattern that continued throughout all the grade levels. The best grade for Palo Alto was 51%, so it's almost 50% did meet standards or exceed standards, and 50% did not meet standards. That's as good as it gets in a unified district in Santa Clara County.
Wow.
San Jose Unified, when you look at 5th grade in San Jose Unified, it's I'm looking at San Jose, yes, it is 73% of 5th graders that did not meet standard. And in Milpitas, it is 81% that did not meet standard. So it's consistent through the grade levels. But why is Palo Alto? And I think my personal knowledge would be there is lower staff to student ratios in Palo Alto, not only for resource specialists, but generally throughout the entire, they are still keeping low kindergarten and 1st grade levels closer to 20 students per class in Palo Alto. And it's again because they have the basic aid money and the local money to do so. So I think it has a lot to do with class size in Palo Alto Unified. And the collaboration. I think they have been collaborating more intensely. I thought Milpitas was as well, because when I left Milpitas in 2000 and to move to Palo Alto as principal, certainly we were engaged in a lot of in-classroom inclusion, with resource teachers being assigned to a team of 150 students and those academic teachers, and working in the classroom with their resource students in the regular classroom, without only the pullouts were before school and after school, never during school. So I thought they were going to show better, but they did not. So I don't know any more than what I just shared. But for me, it is parents and their advocacy keeping laser focused on the important data to develop their own dashboards relative to students with disabilities, not only on achievement data like what I was reviewing, but in attendance data, suspension data, and to have maybe 4 days. Pardon me?
And graduation.
Graduation, I was, yes, and I was thinking, I'm still thinking elementary, but yes, graduation data as well. It's a grading data. I think would be interesting. But I think you should, so to focus on like 3 or 4 targeted benchmark areas that you could track over time, so that in 2020 we have data and we look over a 5-year period, and it should improve. It's always about continuous improvement, and if it doesn't, there's I think there's fault.
When I was looking just at the asking what they had been changing at Garner to just try to figure out if they were improving anything, they had reduced class size and they were bringing in more resources and they were pushing in all services instead of doing the pull out, which I thought was helpful. But they just started this last year. So just in time for COVID. So there's no way to tell if it's going to help or not.
Right, but if we track that as a parent advocacy group for 5 years, and if you're a graduating parent of somebody who's leaving the district, other parents are should be in that advocacy group to take your place and continuing to stay laser focused on those 4 areas that you've determined to track for 5 years.
Okay.
And I think achievement should be high on that list, if not number 1.
Well, I know one of the parents that I thought she was going to be coming into this meeting. She's her issue has been having kindergartners and having them do a full day with this distance learning. Do you know? Do you have a sense of what some of the other schools districts are doing with the younger kids?
I tried to do some research, but I'd like to get back to you as I do more research. What I found out is that screen time for kindergarten, pretty much embedded in most of the literature, is 1 hour maximum a day. I think that when you mentioned in your email to me, Kristen, that the district, San Jose Unified, is allowing sites, principals and their parent community or faculty community to determine whether it's an all-day kindergarten.
Yeah.
I think that's probably wrong. I would challenge that. I think there should be evidence-based decisions. Okay. And I think the evidence would say, in fact, I have a niece, my wife's brother's daughter is a teacher in Grass Valley at a performing arts magnet elementary school. And she's a kindergarten teacher. And she is saying that particularly her students, she's very concerned about the amount, and it's just a partial day. And they're looking at hybrid models in the future. But she's very concerned about the time that, and some of her students are not showing up on a regular. So I think it should be evidence-based. What is the research? What is the, particularly for the sensitive nature of a 5-year-old during this time in a pandemic? So I would say that should not be left up to schools. The district should have the information about what is best practice across the country, and clued into the experts. Because in my preliminary research over the last 48 hours, there is nothing I could find about experts advocating for all-day kindergarten during the pandemic. So that to me is contrary to where we should be going, and we should be looking at no more than 1 hour of screen time. I sent you an email. You asked about, do I know anything about traditional public or charter schools and how they're doing during this? And I sent you an email from Preston Smith. He's the chief executive officer of rocket ship schools throughout the US. There's schools in Tennessee, there's schools in Washington, DC, there's schools in Milwaukee, and all of them started here in San Jose, as you know. And then they have some in the East Bay, but they all started with the first one being Mateo Sheedy Rocket Ship School That was the first rocket ship school. And it was started because of Father Matteo Sheedy, a Jesuit priest, who believed there should be more Latinx students attending Santa Clara University. But when he did the research, he found out none of them had the skills or the subjects or the content or the A to G requirements to get into Santa Clara. None of them, zero, particularly in the Sacred Heart area of San Jose.
Yeah.
So he said, we need to do something. And that's where Rocket Ship was born, from dialogue between the Jesuits and the Nativity School at Sacred Heart and Preston Smith and John Danner, who just sold his DoubleClick business to, I think Google or something, for $100 million. So he had some money to use to see about Rocket Ship, and they put a lot of effort into that. So that's how Rocket Ship started. We now have approved 9 Rocket Ship schools on the county board, but they were touted in Education Week magazine, which is like the national publication for research and related issues about education. So they just had a recent mention in Ed Week about what they were doing during the pandemic. It's called, they pointed many schools, but it's called 6 Lessons Better Teaching During Pandemic.
Right.
6 lessons for better teaching during the pandemic. So that's one thing that I was able to show you. So that's an example of what's going on there.
Great. Well, thank you. And Matteo Sheedy is the one right here.
Correct.
So it's just up the street from Garner, which has always been ironic.
Correct. Correct.
Because of course they're doing quite well by their students. There's I used to have the data on that one, but they were the percentage of their students doing meeting what do they call that? Meeting standard and above was pretty decent when I was looking at the numbers. So I was really surprised that here they are just 3 blocks away.
I think that's true. And one of my other areas to advocate, in fact, I got a very nice email from Congressman Ro Khanna after my election. About 10 days later, he sent me and said he would like to be able to work with me during this term. And I said I would like to work with his office. And in fact, I visited his office when I went to Washington, D.C. In 2019 in April, after going to a National School Boards Conference in Philadelphia. I took the train to Washington and met with Zoe in her office personally. And then Zoe was working on the Bernie Sanders campaign. He wasn't there, but I met with his chief of staff. And so I did talk to one of his staff members. Rose said, talk to one of my, I'm going to give you Drew is his name. And Drew and I had a conversation. And one of the areas that I pointed out that I want to work with him on after the first year, we're going to talk again, was special ed. Because it's a huge federal expenditure, and expenditure to states, then states to districts, that doesn't get a whole lot of bang for the buck, at least the way it's currently configured. So I wanted to, and Drew was saying that'd be a great conversation to have. I talked about Head Start and other things like that the county office has programs about, but one of those issues that I think we should enlist our federal legislators on is students with disabilities and special ed.
Well, and IDA, gives them the free range to pay up to 40%, and they're still around 10. So,
But we don't talk about that much, right?
Right. Well, and this year I was really
I don't
glad.
think we talk about it enough.
Yeah, but I was really glad that Harris and Loughran and they were writing letters to try to get better funding into IDEA to make sure that all the states were receiving a higher percentage of federal funding than they have in the past. And that was before COVID. So, but it was nice that there was a strong push for better funding to come from the federal funding channel, because certainly that's been low. And
Yeah, we have no issues with increasing the defense budget. Yeah. So it seems like
Oddly.
it should be an easy one for us to look at, because education, I think, is the most important civil rights issue of our time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's our future, right?
It is. It is. It
And-
is. It's our quality of life. It's everything, and it's breaking down to not serve students with disabilities and those who are children of color as well as we must.
Yes. Did you, there was a documentary, No Small Matter. Has that come across your?
It resonates in my brain, but I don't know much
Their
about it.
focus is the quality preschool, right? That we need to have quality preschool to start to that effect. And I'm glad that the state is now investing in more of a program. But they just had a national showing of it to draw more attention to the fact that we really need to be working on a better early quality education and better childcare to help these families that are starting, because it's just so costly. It's forcing families to become, to choose whether to work or to take care of their kids sometimes. So I'm glad to see momentum in that direction at our state. So
I agree.
so what I'd also asked a little, we've talked a little bit about how students with disabilities are underserved. Now they're even more underserved, right?
During the
Because of
pandemic,
situation we're in.
absolutely, no doubt about it.
What are some creative ways that have you heard of any creative tactics that other districts, other schools might have tried?
Like with special day class students, et cetera, one-on-one, those things that you mentioned in your, I
Yeah,
haven't, and that's where I was going to listen to the parents, and I was going to be equipped to
Yeah.
ask those questions at the county level, so that I could come back to you either in written form or in Zoom form with answers to that, because I think you've touched upon an issue, at least it's going to be around for another 6 months, that we need to, and every day that we lose, have more. And the word that I'm going to start using, I read it in a column, is learning recovery
Mm,
after the pandemic, because we've lost so much that we need to recover it. And we need to start planning for summer school 2021. We need to start planning for after school and before school learning recovery modules, modalities. And I don't know if people are thinking about those things, but I would like to be a voice to advocate for thinking about those things right now. But I would like to find out more about particularly students with disabilities and SDC and one-on-one, and how districts are handling those with the the IEPs and what is being done. Because I think the average educator would say we're not serving those students very well, and we need to do more.
yeah, I agree. And there was at the CAC meeting earlier this week, we were lucky to have a couple special day class teachers call into the meeting, and I was grateful that they were there. I wish that they talked more, but I think they feel inhibited sometimes because of the administration attending those meetings too. But there are students who they can't do school right now,
They can't.
and that's more than just loss in their academic potential. It's also loss in some of their growth and that they had made with OT and other services that they were getting through school that they can't have right now. So there's parents seeing a lot of regression, and it's just devastating to those families.
And how do we plan for their learning recovery in 2021? I mean, that's right around the corner.
Mhm.
A little over 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
We need to start planning for actually less than 3 weeks away. we need to start planning for that learning recovery in 2021 ASAP.
Mhm.
San Jose State President Papazian just sent an email this evening, actually, that said we're going to be in-person teaching the fall of 2021. So there was a whole lot of rumor that was not going to be the case,
Okay.
but she said we will be back. So
Okay.
San Jose State starts like the third week in August with students, and she's saying in a very clarion way, we're going to be back in-person classes in August of 2021.
Well,
So
that's
she
good.
must, yeah, I think so. I think it's really good. So, but during that interim period, we need to start planning for those questions. How do we deal with our special day class students or those that would traditionally have one-on-one help during the pandemic? What are we doing for them? And how could we do more for them
Do you have,
as part of the recovery?
do you have a sense of what the county programs are doing? Did they do a waiver and so they could do in person?
Some of them are in person. Our staff has complained about that in almost every meeting, but there hasn't been one issue of, to my knowledge, as of the last meeting in November, there was not one issue of a COVID-19 spread in those. And of course, for many of our students, they're so they have so many issues they bring to the instructional setting with physical issues where with feeding tubes and
Right.
toileting needs, etc., that the aides were very Service Employees International Union employees that were in the classroom were very coming to every meeting saying that we didn't handle that right, but we did start. Whether it's right, I'm not going to pass judgment. I think getting those students in school was a good thing, even though the staff had to be there to make that happen. As long as we made it safe for the staff, if we did, then it's okay. But they were affiliated as though it was not as safe. But there have been, at least as of November, no spread of issues from my understanding.
Well, that's great. Well, that's good to know because that, helps our argument.
Yeah, no, I think Marianne and our professional leaders pushed that to happen as soon as possible when it
Good.
was possible to do so.
That's good. I'm just, it really boggles my mind that San Jose Unified didn't even go through the trouble to file for a waiver. To me, that was an insurance policy, right? To have that
Yes.
waiver ready to go.
Yes.
So my understanding is there's not really a deadline that they could still do it. Have you heard differently?
No, I haven't heard differently, and that was one of the issues I was going to get back to you on.
Okay.
After I was armed with more ammunition from tonight.
I'm sorry. Okay. So are you hearing some parents finding some good options for their kids?
I can't say that I've heard much about options. Explain that a little bit more for me.
Well, I mean, if the public school isn't working for them, I know a few who've transferred out into schools that are in person.
I know that my neighbors are San Jose Unified books and etc. have gone to private school. There are many double income moms and dads with young children who have the money to afford to do that, and many of them are doing that, have decided to do that because they were disappointed with. And I'm wondering how that's going to be for San Jose Unified when people return. So I think it's been a boon to private schools that have been able to maintain in-person learning in small groups, in small classroom settings. And I would think those students are not going to come back to
Mhm.
San Jose Unified for those millennial parents.
Well, and it just furthers the divide too, right?
No doubt about it.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about it. It furthers the divide.
that's
Yeah,
really
the divide is growing. The fissure is getting wider and wider, and it's
Mhm.
and I don't think we're we're understanding what that means in the long term. I don't think we do understand what that means in the long term. But if we have a plan in place for learning recovery,
Mhm.
that would be okay. You know, I would love to see those plans for particularly the targeted populations that we're discussing, including English language learners.
Yes. Yes. And I was in another forum where a really sharp young man who's an English language learner was talking about the complexities of being a student with distance learning as an English language learner. And he's, fourth grade, very articulate. I mean, I was listening to the translation of what he was saying, but um, the teacher not really taking the time to slow down and give him a chance to follow was just frustrating. So I wish there were good answers right now, you know?
Yeah. But there is hope that we just need to work. We've got time to work some things out so that when we do start in person, probably sometime next, if not during the third quarter, if not during the second quarter, during the third quarter of the year, we're in a much better place on these issues that we're discussing.
So by third quarter for us, because that's more of a college term, right? You're meaning summertime or fall?
I'm meaning fiscal quarter, so I'm meaning fall. That the second quarter ends June 30th, so the third quarter starts July 1st. So I would mean that time after July 1st.
Okay. And that's when they had their extended school year last year. So we'll see what they could get in place. It's just I wish Kavita had made this meeting because she said that she would try. But she's a mom in Milpitas, and she's been just a bee in the like a gnat. She described just really pushing. She grabbed 5 or 6 other parents that had students with disabilities, and so we've just got to make this happen, and really pushed it through. So I'm really sorry she's not here to talk with you a little bit about that experience, but I'm glad that she got it going. And there it's not special day class, it's the CBI program, but it's in person, and I'm just so proud of her having that push, you know, and the perseverance to make it so we're hoping to leverage a little bit of that with San Jose Unified and see if we could get them to open up some of these special day classes, at least for the students.
Somebody very supportive of my campaign
Mhm.
from their trustee, from their board of trustees was Michael Sy. Do you know Michael Sy?
No, I don't.
TSAI. Engineer, math person who
Oh, I think I
who's
did.
on the
He's a young
he's on the
man.
Milpitas. He's pretty young, yeah, probably in his 30s, I would say. He's
Yeah.
on the Milpitas Unified Board,
Okay.
and I don't know. I'm sure he would be willing to come on a Zoom with me and maybe have some information from what Milpitas Unified did,
Okay.
or have a staff member come with him. I would think he would. I think he would be a good person for me to reach out to if there would be a collaborative Zoom with that person that you just referred to,
Okay.
and Michael Sy, and somebody maybe from Milpitas Unified.
Okay. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think that's what Zoom affords us, an opportunity to collaborate, and to bring people in so
Yeah.
easily when nobody has to travel and to get there. So I think we should use, that's a really good tool for us, as you have, Kristen,
Mhm.
and to your credit, how you've been able to do that over time. So I think we should continue to use that, and I think we could come, as President-elect Biden says, build back stronger, build
Yes.
back better,
Yes.
build back better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and there's some things from this that have worked better for some students, so hopefully some of what we're learning through distance learning, the good stuff will stick around. But our first run at it, I think we all hope that we could do better at each day.
Well, I think that is so true based on my San Jose State students.
Uh-huh.
They're upper division. They're in their early 20s. And I think comparing my last in-person semester with this semester, last semester was hybrid. It was both. We were with them, and then in March, whatever the date was, 12th, 13th, 14th, we were no longer with them for the rest of the year. But this whole Zoom semester was, I thought we did really well as a 40 student. My attendance was higher than in person. My attendance was probably 85%. The
Wow.
average, the entire semester, and the presentations that they had, each student could pick from a topic list of like 40 different topics about justice studies and race, gender, inequality, and do a 15-minute presentation with 5 minutes of Q&A. And my student presentations were far better than at Anderton, because I think they're getting so much practice to use this tool.
Yeah.
They were 30% better than at any time in the last 4 years.
That's
So
great.
I'm thinking that's, as you described, in large measure due to the technology that everybody's using every day.
Yeah. We just have to make sure that everyone is learning how to use it, right? That's one of the issues we've had with our students and their families.
Right, and if you're a college student, upper division,
you've
got the
issues.
skills and tools to get better at it, right?
Right.
The digital natives, but students that are in elementary or middle school don't necessarily have those skills, but they can, and they can get better at it by using. Now, I don't know if they're doing those kinds of presentations, or I think middle schools, I think they can. Are they doing presentations as part of their distance learning?
I haven't noticed it in either of my boys' class. I have a freshman and a senior in high school, but I know that last couple years when Julian was at Bret Harte Middle School, his social studies teacher would have them do presentations.
Well, and if they do a group presentation, like I don't like over 3 in a group, but they could meet on Zoom. They don't have to meet, and it's, so I think that really did afford better quality.
Right.
It was the handoffs, everything that went into a presentation, the slides were so 30% better than any time before.
I want to.
So, which is really good.
Yeah. So next semester, can I just dial into a class and watch?
You can, sure you can. I can send you a Zoom link.
Great.
In fact, when I sent out, I'm meeting, I told you, with Victoria Chan, the new trustee, and I sent a Zoom, and I went to my San Jose State Zoom account and sent a Zoom out. I had 3 students say, "Do we have a Zoom on December 14th at 4 o'clock?" I said, no, it's a private meeting, so I got to be careful. I forget when I pull it off of San Jose State.
Right.
My students get it immediately. Yeah, at least the students for that class. So I should do it on a Zoom and not on my San Jose State account, but I didn't.
So the County Office of Education won't set you up with an account?
Oh, probably they would. I have not asked. I have not asked.
Well, hopefully they're not using WebEx.
Only CNN is using WebEx.
Oh no, San Jose Unified is using WebEx.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, no.
Well, I'm sorry that my mess. I've
No,
had a few
no
parents
worries.
representing tonight.
No worries. I appreciate the opportunity. You always could invite me to be part of a parent group at any time about any subject that you wish,
Thank
and I'll
you.
try to be I'll try to be an intelligent person to not an intelligent person. I'll try to be somebody that could contribute to the dialogue. So in my notes, I think I've covered all the things that I wanted to say. One thing I didn't cover
Okay.
is that I think for things like your let me get it out, the Community Advisory Committee,
Yeah.
SELPA 4, it talks in the first the second article, Article 2, that CACSE shall achieve its purpose by promoting maximum interaction between students, parents, and community members, and teachers, staff, the Department of Education, San Jose Unified School District, the Santa Clara County Office of Education, and other local education agencies. So that's in Article 2. And my note to myself for this collaboration was to say that student voice is so vitally important, that we don't do that anywhere near enough. We give it token reference at times, but they should be integral to school site councils, that they should be integral to PTAs, they should be integral to the advisory committee or any advisory committee. And so, because they have so much to share with us on a firsthand basis. And I think using those students who would like to take an opportunity to share things to a committee, we should be using them, and we should be having them on Zooms. And so I just wanted to say that I've always tried to use in my work in schools student voice as a key factor of change. Sometimes students will be, as you know, as Art Linkletter would say, too honest. And sometimes it's, you got to be careful. You got to almost coach them not to be overly honest, to be tactful in their honesty,
Right.
because they could hurt by telling the truth. But the truth needs to be told.
Yes.
Because we obfuscate far too much in this business.
Yes. Yeah. For a couple of years, my oldest son was on our community advisory committee as our student representative, and the questions he would formulate when we had presenters just blew my mind. I would just have to remember, oh, that's my son.
Congratulations.
But it was just, really thought out and perceptive in a way that was unexpected for me because of his autism, right?
Yeah.
But I'm also on the school site committee for Willow Glen High School, and the secretary of their student body is a really dynamic young man, and he is constantly saying, this meeting is a public meeting with the school site meeting. He's like, I don't understand why you're not publicizing it better.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
You're making choices for us, and I'm it.
Yes. Good for him. It's so true.
I love it.
So true.
I'm like, well, bring your friends.
I love it too.
Yeah. So I hear you. Well, and with that prompt, I'll make a point to really try to get another student representative on our community advisory committee. I ran into someone in Sacramento, and other community advisory committees were meeting for legislative day. And they introduced a young man and said, he's the only student representative on community advisory committees anywhere in California. And I had to whisper in her ear, I don't want to burst his bubble, but we have one. So yeah.
Victoria, is anything or Beverly? I'm sorry, Victoria is my new colleague on the county board. That name is top of my mind right now. But is there anything, Beverly, that you wanted to say in the end?
I just wanted to just put out there, just for our parent who couldn't be here tonight, but was going to, the one whose children are having the difficulty with the full day kindergarten. Any words of advice or suggestions on then how she can move forward in addressing that issue? She's been in touch with Seth Reddy already. Didn't get too far, and with her child's teacher who said that it was set in stone. So I think she is wondering where does she go from there. She does have a group of parents who are have equal concerns. So
For
she
me,
has some voices there with her.
for me, I think it's if they haven't met with the director of student services or the person most responsible for children with disabilities in the district, they should and discuss that and discuss ask for the research best practices. I think it's very clear to me in my cursory research that it's against best practice and it's not evidence-based. And it really should be, it's probably up to the parent, right? Isn't it up to the Willow Glen Elementary to the kindergarten parent to determine whether they're going to have their kid be part of that all day or not? Or how are they being sanctioned if they don't do that? What's happening?
They're not being told they have an option, right? So the expectation is set forth that you will have your child there the full day. And, I feel that they should be able, after the 3 hours that are required by, the assembly bill, bye, see ya, I'm done.
Well, that's where I take it. I would take the action. I would get the parents who think it should be 3 hours to say that starting on December the 14th, Monday, my son, my daughter will be attending school for these hours only, and have the people that believe that to sign it and send it to that person. If you've already had I think it's always fair to have the discussion first with that person in the district office responsible, not just the principal. If you've already met with the principal, then you move to the person most responsible for that policy, and beyond the principal, somebody in the district allowing the principal to do that. And then if not there, the superintendent, and if not there, the school board, because they're the ones that really set the policy. I know some of the machinations of San Jose Unified and how it works with the superintendent and Stephen McMahon and Nancy Alvaron, and the board. But I think that's where it goes. And then if not there, then to ask the county to come to a meeting and under public comment say, county, you're like it says that you're the partner here with us in the community advisor committee. Could you give me your position about all-day kindergarten?
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Yeah,
You're
I think
welcome.
that'll be good for her to hear and just get some, feedback and ideas for, where to take this.
I
Because
really like
think
the idea, though, of formulating a letter that says, starting next Monday, we're not doing more than 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a firm, like, this, we're done, because I know this parent has talked to the school district, says we say 3 hours, we let the sites determine if it's going to be longer. The school site decided this. She's spoken with the teacher and the principal. I'm not sure that Seth Reddy would do anything about it, because he feels that's not something in his hands to determine school schedules at sites, which is a shame. But I like the idea of writing a letter and getting that motion going. That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll help her with that.
All right. Well, know that you could always reach out to me for any more. And if you want to, as you cogitate on what we discussed,
Yeah.
if you want to send me some bullet points, those things you want me to come back with, I could come back with an email or a Zoom between the two of us.
Okay, great. And then, just over time, just working on that plan of what threshold we should start pushing the districts to for that learning recovery too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I like that term. Do you like that term? I like that term. When I saw it in some column in the New York Times, I said, that is it. It's exactly right, because we've lost so much. We got to recover what we've lost. And we got to put an effort, an all court, all hands effort to recover it, particularly for our most vulnerable children.
Well, and it's not just the academic recovery, but there's also the social recovery, right? Because
That's right.
the development of, 3 years old, they're starting to, they need that social time to build up their individuality. Well, they haven't really had that opportunity this year. And that continues on up through 12th grade. So they've had this year to really not get those opportunities to learn more about who they are and what they can do in this world. It's been limited by what we've all been limited with. So yeah, that too. I would love to see more, social justice practice at at our district too than their practices. So we'll see. A lot to do, Joseph, a lot to do.
A lot to do, Kristen. But I'm here for 4 more years to do the work. So,
And you're ready to shake the tree and
I'm ready to be as vocal and as I've ever been before.
great. I'm counting on it.
And recall me if you wish. Not you, but the outer world.
Okay.
So, all right.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you
Kristen.
so much. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. You're welcome. Thank you. Nice
Trustee
meeting you
Salvo.
again, Beverly. Take care.
Thank you.
Be well, ladies. Be
You
safe.
too.
Stay healthy and hopeful.
Yes,
Okay.
I like that.
Thank you. You too. All right, well, good.